challenging for his ego while he was in school. It made school pretty hard for him, right? So another challenge that he faced was in his political career, voicing for LGBTQ plus rights with his partner. His design for Anna Karenina in 2019 had a multimedia approach. Translucent panels glided across overhead tracks and were used to convey smaller spaces or larger areas like a ballroom or a race course. Live video was put on the back of these panels to conjure up either nightmare or hallucination scenes for the production. Pai used a dark and messy style for the play Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. He styled in a lot of jagged corners and sharp stacks of books with dim lighting. The set for this play was only one room, and while the stacks of books offer a messy kind of vibe, the room is still simple enough to not take away from the complicated and aggressive dialogue of its characters. The clutter seems to reflect the emotional state of the characters, noticeable but pushed to the side. For the set of The Nutcracker, Pai went larger than life. A whimsical design makes audiences feel like they've stepped into a storybook. Digitally generated snowfall, an interesting armchair, and a few metaphorical objects help the audience immerse in the play, as you can see here. Pai made the show modern and interesting, but was careful not to alienate the traditional audience that he wanted to entice in the first place. He wanted to keep its Christmas vibe and its Christmas feel alive and central, but he also wanted to move away from the typical flatness of a ballet and add larger than life set pieces. Tom Pai did costume design for To Walk Invisible, the Bronte sisters story, which if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It's actually really good. He wanted to be historically accurate without being too drab. So he used colors without being too bright or obnoxious. Their costumes push more toward the 1850s than the 1840s, but we still get the point. The pieces were complete with matching gloves and purses as well. One of the dresses even had thunder and lightning bolts on it, which was definitely historically accurate, I found out. My favorite one of Tom Pai's designs was his work on the set and costumes of A Christmas Carol, which is one of my favorites. Each character of Christmas Past, Present, and Future all had some crazy element to them, whether it be super tall hair on Christmas Past, the unfinished skirt on Christmas Present, and even a 10-foot long arm span on Christmas Future or Christmases to come. He wanted the set to look almost too large for the stage. Characters fly over London, and there's even some talking puppets and a very interesting chest that's covered in chains. Pai also designed the play High Society. His bright, eye-catching costumes contribute nicely to the laughs the productions get. The pieces are loud and flashy to keep up with the characters' fast pace. For his work on the HBO series Gentleman Jack, he was a little bit stuck. He wanted to depict the main character as a rule-defying, not only in her sexual orientation, but in her dress as well. The answer was to amp up the gaudiness of the other characters and to have the main character in all black and very plain. The contrast in detail and colors allows us to see the dynamic character and how crazy this was for her time. Pai also wanted viewers to see the color and busyness of the average clothes worn by women at the time period, compared to our more Gentleman Jack's all black and unassuming style. Tom Pai used to design for MTV Europe. His awards include nominations for Tony Award and a Drama Desk Award for Scenic Design for Fiddler on the Roof. And he also had a nomination for a Henry Hughes Award for Scenic Design on All My Sons and The Testament of Mary. I chose to research Tom Pai because I thought that his name sounded very familiar at first, so I decided to check out some of his work. I was really impressed by the number of things that he was involved in, and I saw an interview of him, and then I was definitely sold. He seemed like he was very knowledgeable, but liked to have fun with his productions. There were supposed to be pictures on these slides, so this must be my old one, and I must have not clicked on my new one, so I apologize for that. But my aha moment was when I saw his images on A Christmas Carol, and then I realized where I knew him from and why I recognized him. My friends had shown me a couple of his, when I was a senior in high school, a couple of his productions, and A Christmas Carol was the one that I had seen, and I was absolutely obsessed with it. I thought it looked so cool. I never even got a chance to see it, but I thought it looked super cool. And we researched a lot about it. And I realized when I was doing this why his name sounded familiar to me. And it's because I've seen him before. And that is it for me.
That was wonderful. And you managed to find out some information on his education, which
yeah,
I totally know what you mean. It's really hard. Where did you find it?
I ended up looking up some interviews on him, and there were like 2 or 3 hour-long interviews of him talking about previous, specifically Gentleman Jack. That's kind of his most recent one, and it's like really big right now. And as he was talking about it, he would kind of every once in a while mention his, education. So whenever he mentioned it, I would write it down really fast, like, oh, this is what I went to school for, and that's how it helped me in Gentleman Jack. And I would just skip through these like hour-long interviews trying to find the information on him.
I know what you guys think. You want to comment? Anybody? Say something to Jess about her presentation. What did you guys think? Lisa, can you say something? You guys, do you hear me? Okay.
I know it was average at best, so it's okay.
No, I really think you covered it very well. I appreciate the fact that you were looking into specific designs and talking about the color choices, how that work with the lights. I mean, both the costumes, about the characters, and that you have these process images that are showing the process, especially in the costume design. That was super successful. And just your analysis of the way that he's doing the designs and behind thinking that he might have. But from your own perspective, I think that was fantastic because it shows like a critical thinking and understanding of the work that he was doing. So I think
the costumes was actually super cool. He has a website, and on his website he would put up like his process images, and then I just did a little bit more digging, and all of his process images for costumes especially had like the fabric next to them, which I thought was really cool, and kind of like first drafts, second drafts of them. So that was really cool. And then again, I apologize for I clicked on the wrong presentation, not the updated one with the
that is okay as long as you put the actual presentation in your digital journal, and this is for everybody. You will add the presentation images, the slides in your digital journal. So things happen. You were very confident in your presentation and engaged, and that was really good because I think we were all able to follow you, and you just fulfilled the whole Pecha Kucha formatting really well. So really good job. Okay. Even though that you're stressing, and then I was stressing like late last night when I saw a message, but you did it. So yay, great. Thank you, Jess. So Chantal, you want to give your presentation? Can you share the screen?
Yes. Sorry, it's a little loud in here.
I love the skeletons and the bat that you have in the back.
Okay. Can everyone see just fine?
Yes, it's great.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Chantal, and the scenographer I chose to do my presentation on was Michael Levine. He designed sets for opera, theater, film, and dance productions in North America and Europe. Levine was from Canada and was originally set out to be a painter. After a year at the Ontario College of Art, he realized he had a passion for theater, working on the productions of some friends. After that year, he started studying at Central St. Martin's College of Art and Design in London. He later earned his degree in 1981 and started as a resident designer at Glasgow Citizens Theatre in Scotland. Okay, here is at that same theatre, and these are some images of his production of Torquato Tasso, and he was the costumer and the set designer for this 1983 production. When he talked about when he reflected upon his time here at the Glasgow Citizens Theatre, he said that he was able to learn how to read a text, collaborate with other people, and how to play on studio time, which he thought was really important, and the most important things that he learned. This production is Spring Awakening at Center Stage Company, and it really marked his return back home to Canada. He was well known for this show, and it was seen as kind of a distorted and grotesque thing, but it was really widely appreciated. The imagery was dark, from the costumes to the sets, and it really gave the sense of severity of the show. This is his production of Mistopheles at the Grand Theatre in Geneva in 1988. This is in Switzerland. His artistic talent and creativity was accentuated by this production. He was able to beautifully integrate the ornate theater space with his concept for the show. And you can see the angels here. And it's really nice, and how he integrated even the beautiful, the beautiful set here. Okay. In 1991, he won a Critics Award for the design of, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong slide. Okay, sorry, my notes got mixed up. He is a part of the Associated Designers of Canada, which you can see here. And in 1999, he was able to present one of his pieces as part of the Canada delegation at the Prague Quadrennial. And right here, this is his production of Midsummer Night's Dream in 1991. He won a Critics Award for this design. And I think it was really, I really think he deserved it. As you can see, it's really unique and eccentric. He was able to incorporate these like bizarre ideas really effectively. Okay, this is in 2016. He was awarded a Dora Maver Moore Award, which you can see in the middle. It was given to him for his outstanding scenic design on Siegfried. And he once again created an intricate piece that is rightfully recognized as such. And as with his other works, he uses a lot of dark backgrounds and to contrast the actors and the objects by using light and bright colors. And it really like shows forth in his work. And he had emphasized collaboration being like a big thing, and many people, these are three people that he worked with a lot. On the left here is Robert LePage, on the right is Robert Carson, and in the middle is Simon McBurney. These were all directors that he would work with. Levine's work in opera often incorporates chorus members into scenography. This is notably done in this production here, that is Oedipus Rex. Here in this image, you can see the people lying down and even laying down, sitting and lying down, and they become part of the landscape. It's really interesting how he was able to incorporate the actors into the set design. Okay. It has been known to include outside elements into his works. Like with that one, with this one, he's using a large metal ship in his 2009 production of The Flying Dutchman. And it creates a really realistic setting that ties the whole work together. In 1981, he received the French Order of Chivalry Award. This is the green one right here. And then in 1999, he was given an award from the Toronto Arts Foundation. And then in 2011, he won a Distinguished Artist Award from the International Society for the Performing Arts. In 1997, he was given a Gemini Award for his design for September Songs and Music of Kurt Weill. In 1993, he won an Edinburgh Festival Drama and Music Award, and this was in recognition of his work in the production of Bluebeard's Castle in Warden. And you can see once again, he has like this, you can tell he has a theme, ongoing theme in most of his works where he uses a lot of dark backgrounds in contrast with the light, and it really brings out the focus upon the characters and the actions that they're doing. Okay. Levine designed the set and costumes for this ballet adaptation of Le Petit Prince in 2016. You can once again see his use of dark setting. This show, much like his other works, have somehow found a way to look yet simple and so intricate and ornate at the same time. In my research in my search to find a scenographer, I clicked on the link in our syllabus and it led me to the Scenography Today website. I started scrolling and one piece in particular caught my eye, but I decided that I should probably continue looking at all the different artists before being set on this one artist. I eventually returned to this image by Michael Levine. This is his design of Iphigenie in Turin. I was initially attracted by the dark color scheme that is highlighted by the implementation of small bits of bright and light colors. And these are some other, these are some other images of that same show. Many of his designs, just like I had been saying before, have a similar color scheme and atmosphere. The heavy themes of the show are further emphasized through these beautiful pieces. I think that's why I was initially drawn to him, because the color schemes he uses, and I was really like happy and like happily surprised to find that he does this in most of his works. In a 2011 interview on conceptualization, he said, "I think theater is a collaborative art. I think, in fact, you begin to draw your resources from all the various participants in a project." There, he also stressed the importance of getting to know a text and thinking about how the audience will interpret it, which I think is really important, because oftentimes we want to stay so close to the text, but we need to remember how the audience is going to be viewing it, and not just how we did it. Although he does not consider himself to have a palette for his works, he did say that he does have something that he has an affinity for. This is in that same interview. He said that he is drawn to squares, rectangles, straight lines, and the golden mean. He said that although he doesn't confine himself to these ideas when he works on a piece, but they are of great interest to him. My aha moment was when he was asked in that interview how long it took him to gain confidence in his ability. He answered that although he started designing when he was 19, he did not fully understand how to do what he does until he was in his mid to late 30s. This really resonated with me, and I know it will for others, because sometimes we are so focused in the pursuit of success that we criticize ourselves too harshly without realizing that we're still learning and growing because we're so focused on the end result. And then for reference, on the left is his work from 1983, and then on the right is the work from 2018. So you can see how much he's progressed. And these are my sources.
Great. Chantal? Okay, so guys, what do you think of Chantal's presentation, and what did you learn about the designer that she was showing the work? Can I get some feedback responses?
One thing that I thought was really cool was that, like you said, something about your notes being mixed up. but that you picked up really fast and you didn't really like let it phase you. And I would have been like, oh my God, can I restart? Like, I would have freaked out. So I like that you just kept going and you didn't really like sit there and, you know, like you didn't let it like freak you out or anything. I thought that was really cool because it showed that you knew what you were talking about, that you definitely had done the research.
Good. Anybody else? What did you think of the designer work that she presented?
I thought it was really cool. I could tell that the designer used a lot of dark tones and colors and shadows, and I thought that was really cool to see because a lot of the designers we've seen use like bright and colorful costumes and stuff like that.
Great, great observation. Anybody else? Okay. Chantal, as what Jessica said, you were really able to pick up on whatever circumstances that you had to face. It, if you did not mention, we would not know that the notes are skipped or whatever that happens. So, so that was a really good thing. Maybe you were stressed, you went over a little bit over the time, but the information that you presented was excellent, from the quotes to analysis of his work, the reason why did you choose specifically, and what is that you were drawn to in the specific design. I thought it was excellent that you brought in the comparison of his old work versus the new one. That was just really grateful of all of us to see what is that you're talking about, as well as the progression that he made. If you guys noticed, it was such a huge range of the work that he did over the period of time, and diverse in style, even though that has the darkness to it and some light focus, as you were mentioning successfully. So I thought the amount of material that you presented was excellent, as well as your insights that were really looking into the design aspects of everything that he's doing. You were mentioning his awards, which is like amazing how many awards did he win. And one of these places that you mentioned, it's Prague Quadriennial, that he was participating and got the award. I just want to let you know that's the biggest set/costume design event in the world. And it happens in Czech Republic, and our designers from all over the world are participating every 4 years. It's huge. It's equivalent, say, to Venice Biennial that happens every other year. But this is just a place where all these like ideas are shared. And since that world organization of the designers, theater designers started, there is so much improvement in the way the design is critiqued or reviewed, right about, but also in terms of education, because they were creating schools throughout the world and Europe, where the designers like attending, say, 3 years of one art school or design school theater, they can go to spend another year somewhere abroad. And it's just really important to know, so that you brought in that information as well. I was really impressed with your conclusion as pertaining to life, because in my mind, everything that we do as we're learning, we're assessing what we know about the life. And that's why I like set design a lot, or costumes, because it makes you view world from different perspective and testing your own. So I think this was really fantastic what you were saying. The only thing was the setup, maybe with the notes or the order, but which took you to be a little bit longer in a presentation, but the material was just excellent. So, and what you brought both today, Jess and Chantal, is the fact that the designers are working both in sets and costumes, and equally successful way of doing it. But I have to say something about that so that you kind of know the difference. Scenography is an idea that was brought by Joseph Svoboda that Benjamin is going to present. So, and that's the term that he coined, and it really embodies all the design aspects of stage, set costumes, lights, and actually we in Europe were trained to be able to do all of this. So a little bit differently when you look at the Levine and Pai, they're both trained, like one in Canada, the other in England. So they're both doing sets and costumes like in the same amount. In America is a little bit tougher because there's an expectation that you're like either or, set or costume or light. But with the term scenography that was brought in actually, I think about 20 years ago into the training in America, the things are changing. So the younger generation of designers are doing all of the above. So being scenographers. So I'm just trying to teach you something here. I hope this resonates with you guys. You'll remember it somehow. Okay. So thank you for good presentations. I send the dates and reminder. Please let me know what is your designer and when you will present. The other thing that I would like to discuss today, besides the presentation that I want to share with you, is the progress on the white model of your bedroom. I received some really great entries, and I would like to for you guys to share with your peers. So Clive, can you do that? And Laurel, and then Elisa. Taylor, you're on the phone, you won't be able to do it. But Clive, can you do the presentation of your model?
Yeah, do you want me to share my screen?
Yes, share the screen.
Sorry. All right, can you guys see that?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, cool. So for the project, I started with my character paragraph, which just pretty much like, I just created like my own idea and gave my character his own personality and life on the stage. And it turned into this. I just talked about how he lives in the city, he's male, pretty neat, spends a lot of time in his room, hangs out with his family, likes to look out the window, stuff like that, and look at scenery. And so I did these research images. I pulled these up. I just thought they sort of resonated with like someone who was neat like that, and you know, city life sort of. And I gave them sort of these designs, not necessarily going off the colors, but more of the shape and how they look. And so for phase one of the project, I first just got all the measurements with the scale ruler and then drew them out on the poster board. And I actually cut out one before I took the picture, as you can see, but you have the walls, you have the bed, you have the rug and stuff like that. And then for phase two, after cutting out all the furniture, I built them together using the tape and folding and that, and then I just displayed them up before I put them in the stage to see how they look. And with the bed, I used just tissue to make like the comforter and the pillow, and cut out the door too. And then this was pretty much the final project on the stage. I just gave a couple different angles, sort of like what the audience would see, I guess. And then you can see how he fits on the bed to scale. And if you look out the window, there's a tree, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
The only thing, Clive, this is really great. The only thing is the masking. It has to go all the way down to the floor. The legs on the side
Oh, okay. Okay.
So just the small kind of note. So thank you, guys. I think let's move with the next presentation. So I want to show you just a variety. Laurel, can you do yours? Share the screen.
Yeah, just give me a second.
So as she's setting up, I need to know if you guys are having some issues with this. Well, all of you submitted. I know I will get some like late submission, which I talk over the email, which is fine. So there was a question related to the deadline for the white model, and in our syllabus, the deadline is this Sunday, this coming Sunday, which is 25th. So if you did not submit it so far, that's the time that you want to do it. If you need to meet me and troubleshoot some issues, just email me, okay? What I was trying to do was to connect the materials. So instead of just doing building a bed whole week, I put them together in, let's say, 2 weeks extended kind of period, but in a 1 week, because from your models, you guys were showing me that you really are good in crafts aspect of it, and that the scale is there and you're understanding it. So, that's the reason why I'm had it like earlier deadline, but let's keep it as it was written in the syllabus for those that are running late. Okay, Benjamin, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Daniel, you'll pick up the materials and it looks really good. I still have to send individual emails. I already did to most of you, but I know that's why I was mentioning Daniel. I did not send it to him. Sorry, but you'll get a response. Huh?
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
So say like you get I'm so sorry, that's my dog. Anyways, say like you email us back and like say like we have like a small correction to make. How would we like present the correction to you? Do you want like
it's a
like
good question.
Whole model or just the thing we
add it to the digital journal, and you can just send me an email, say this is addition, I want to improve my grade, and just have that one slide or two, whatever are related to, and keep it in your digital journal so that at the end all of this is graded. Okay. But I would like you to present as well your model. So Laura, how are you doing?
I can't share my screen because it's not in my preferences, it's not allowing me to, so I would have to exit out of this Zoom meeting and then come back.
Yeah, it's set up for multiple participants, but I don't know why. But do you mind if I share it?
Yeah, you can share it.
Do you want to talk through it?
I kind of have a little presentation anxiety.
Okay. I'll just. Can you just talk a little bit just about your character as I'm like looking to find your presentation? Okay?
Yeah. So I sent you the.
I know you did, but just can you tell them as I'm looking to the presentation?
So for my character, I decided to do Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas because I didn't want to do something that's like kind of like modern and how we're how our bedrooms look today, and excuse me, and I don't know, I just wanted to do like that, something that looks different from what you see today, I guess.
Okay, I'm trying to find it. No, that's a model. Okay. I wish that I saved it.
There, it's right there.
Where? I don't see it.
It's the second one. I have added the character slide into the
This is,
presentation.
no, that's me. Where'd you see it?
Go back to the email. Click on it.
It should show me this.
No, it's right there.
Where?
Where it says DJ model project. No, where it says my, click on.
Is that one? Is that the one?
Yeah, it should be.
Oh yeah, that's right. So in any case, guys, can you see this? Hello? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So the bedroom floor plan is excellent, the way that you execute it. It's quite symmetrical. It's interesting to me. Why would you choose the symmetry? But then everything inside of that, like it's kind of disturbing, and it shows the character of the person as well as the bedroom. I thought it was very successful in that way. And all the props, and yes, Jack the Skeleton. So looking at the designs, how it is executed, the only thing that could be done a little bit differently is that this, can you see, is a little bit on the angle, the side walls. So they're not perpendicular because it's hard to see. On the other hand, I did not comment on that because this is the entrance, so it's okay, so to speak. But this is really good setup, okay? And then the execution, I mean, including the character, is done pretty well. And your aha moment was really interesting. So what I think was successful about this is the choice of your character, and then how specific you were in determining the space, the location, and the mood. So very good. Okay. So can we, Alisa, do you want to share yours?
Sure.
I guess I want to share that there is like a range of different ways of approaching it. And in all of the DJs that I received, there were comments that, you know, initially I thought it was hard, but then it became much more fun once when you start doing it. And having the measurements, it's a tricky one because you have to go and like literally measure objects that you want to prepare and then scale it down. So that was good. Okay.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I decided to do kind of like how I would envision my life in 10 years or 8 years, I think I put in my presentation. So just did a little background. I do want to be a lawyer, so that was kind of like my mindset. Let's see. My dream is to live in Southern California, so that's where I base like my setting for my character, like by San Diego. Then I talked about my own personality traits, kind of like a background of my family, just to do like for the height and stuff because I'm pretty tall. And then just a little bit about the architecture of how I wanted my room. Something medium sized, not like a huge room, but not like a very small room. Yeah, and then I did some research images. This is kind of like how I envisioned my house to be, so very simple. It looks very clean. I really like that. So yeah. And then I just created a list of all the props that I needed. And I also like adjusted my list based on how my project was going when I actually started building. So like there was a couple things that I had on my list that I took off because in reality it just did not look well with the stage. And then I sketched my floor plan, included the ruler. Yeah, it's pretty basic. And then for the process, I just took one of the props that I drew. So I decided to draw a desk. And as you can see in the top left, I measured it with a 1/4 of an inch scale and I cut it out. And then I also like cut more than I initially measured just so I can bend it into turning it into a desk. Then I took a final picture on the bottom right. Then I added a picture of the masking and then, excuse my drawing, I'm not an artist. But this is like my final product and then different angles as well. So yeah. And then I had like a lot of challenges, obviously, because I'm not the most creative, but I had a lot of fun with this project because it was more personal to me. And I really like interior design and I wanted to pursue that like when I was younger. So this was kind of like channeling into that passion. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. My aha moment was when I included the masking into my stage because I was wondering how I would draw like the walls and stuff, or like how I would kind of add something to the top of my wall. But then once I did the masking and I put it in my stage, like I realized I didn't really have to do anything because the audience wouldn't be able to see it anyway. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I think the most challenging part was like the floor plan, just because I would draw something, cut it out, put it on the stage, and it would look horrible. And then I'd have to go back, and that was just a little challenging for me.
But you did it really well. And and the only note that I had for you, I don't know if you've seen my early morning email, it's the floor, if you don't mind sharing, because I think it will help you as well. See, you have the image of the boards and don't be so critical about your work because you have amazing sense for the proportions. So the windows, the table, the objects that you actually presented in your research material were really well presented in a very simple way, but the proportions are correct, which is fantastic. So bringing the idea of the scale and proportion, when you look at the size of the person, and if you lay down the person on the floor, you will see how these boards are really wide. I mean, it's almost like 2 feet or 18 inches would be the width, and then the length would be, which is okay. Lengthwise, it can go up to 10, well, that's too much, but 6 feet, it's okay. But it looks like it's going to 12 feet. So with the recommendation here is, guys, use the scale person and just put it next to the object and see if that looks real, you know? Does that make sense, Elisa? Otherwise, it's really great conceptually and how you define then the objects and work through the whole process. So bravo to everybody that have their model turn in. They look really good. You'll get some few more notes from me in case that you need to rework something, okay? Does anybody has a question related to the white model? Or this is clear? You guys good? Yeah? Those that did not turn in yet, I have few people on the list. I don't want to name them, but okay. So, so shall we move on to the next topic? Do you guys have any questions before I move to the lecture part? Yes, no, perhaps. Okay, so here's like a little bit tough. Maybe it depends on how much theater you have seen or how much of the design styles or art history do you know. So I'll try to present like in a accessible format, but you guys write the questions as I'm going through this so that you can ask me if something is not clear, okay? The basic idea here is to understand how there is logic behind the type of the stage design, and there is a history behind it that explains it. The choice, like as you could see from the examples, set designers are like a chameleon, so they're choosing different type of ways of expressing what is the world of the play. That's the main goal. So if we, for a second, detach a little bit from what the text is about, but that's always like images driven by the text. And we look at the formal presentation or how it is done. There is like literally one division between two types of design. One is more two-dimensional and painterly, so it's called pictorial, and the other is more three-dimensional or sculptural. So as the designers, we are dealing with the space, but how the space is defined, you know, like in your bedrooms, like where the entrances or doors or the windows, or how people can move around objects. That all exist in both pictorial and sculptural, but pictorial comes from the longer tradition of depiction of reality as if it is like you're viewing it through the window. And this is approach in art that existed as well. So no wonder that the theater pick up on that. But there's this way of thinking in masses, in a sculpture way, and you will see how that became or come into being starting in 19th century. The question of what is action design, that's the last thing that we'll discuss today. And this ties into the theatricalism or contemporary way of looking at the theater design. So there is a difference between realism and theatricalism. Realism has something that's called suspension of disbelief. And that one gears towards this idea that the set design looks like real and we believe that it's real, even though that it's flat and it's painted and it's not real. Does that make sense, guys? So the suspension of disbelief is just like we walk into theater and we decide to believe that what we see is real, even though that we know how the walls have moldings and are perpendicular and they're thick and things like that. They're presented with the thin walls and so forth. Well, that would be the idea of the realism. In 19th century, this is when it's happening. Realism was a tendency to bring the idea of naturalism or as close to the reality, the experience. And it was done to the extent that, you know, if they were cooking, somebody was cooking behind the stage and, you know, having the scent of the food coming out. But in 20th century, the Western theater took a turn and in terms of the visual exploration of the stage and set design. And it is interesting because it also coincides with something that's related to the dramaturgy or how the play were written or perceived. So I just talk about the difference between realism and theatricalism. Theatricalism also, I think of that as style or different ways of, like in interior design, you know, choosing from different time periods objects or colors and, you know, what kind of style you want to represent. Like, you know, is it a Western or, you know, whatever you choose like as a term. But it applies to actually different styles in art that were happening at the beginning of the 20th century, the modernism. So if you look at the text is the basis of everything. So the Aristotelian idea of the drama components are plot, character, theme, diction, music, spectacle, and suspension of disbelief, okay, that I just talk about. And if you look at the structure of the Aristotelian or more traditional type of plays, you have the exposition, you have conflict, you have climax, and then you have the resolution. And then you have the curtain call when you're bowing and all of that. So this is a very traditional way, and then the suspension of disbelief and trying to create realism goes with this kind of structure of the play. The non-Aristotelian, which is very modern and postmodern and started in 20th century, is sequential. So, you know, you have scene after scene, but they're not really happening in the same place at the same time. They're just jumping to the space and time while you're, so that's why it's non-linear. Very rarely it's linear. And expect audience participation in some way. So there's a distinction between realism, which is suspension of disbelief, and Aristotelian model of creating like drama, but also the space in which the audience is just a viewer and not really an active participant. So you're just viewing sort of as a movie, just a narrative. You look the plot and things like that. But in 20th century theater, and those are like Brecht, Artaud, Barba, Grotowski, those are some names of directors that had the groundbreaking effect on the change that happened in the visual world. And there's some designers, and you have the list, Appia, Krag, Brecht, and Nehir, and you know, Craig is director and Brecht was director, that really marked down the change in how the stage design is approached. Okay, are you guys following me so far? So here's a quote we have as a stars that I would like you to remember. In contemporary theater, you have selective realism, expressionism, constructivism, symbolism, surrealism, and postmodernism. And each of these are, especially 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, are connected to the specific period in style and in art. And I will show you the example so that you understand it. Are you familiar with any of these terms, guys, before I go into the design? Anybody? Like surrealism? Does that mean anything?
Yes, I'm familiar with these.
Okay, so expressionism. Guys, I will explain, but how about postmodernism? Did you take any class that you were discussing postmodernism? No? Okay, well, I want you to recognize stylistic qualities and how different this type of design is. And what's the purpose of having something like that? It depends really on the text. So when we talk about the space, and I mentioned that, so regardless of the style that I just mentioned or the theatricalism, you always look at the space, what is the functionality? And theatrical space is described as dynamic geometry and with the characteristics of that of the atmosphere, which includes the lights. So you can see two different approaches. The pictorial one, which is consisted of the very traditional painted curtains or flats, and to create the illusion of three-dimensionality, and then three-dimensional space created by the blocks and masses. Do you guys see this difference between pictorial and sculptural? Like, is it clear visually? Yes? Okay, let me move. So you see pictorial, this is on the top, it's like a background that's painted on a canvas. And that was very typical for 19th century theater. At the bottom, you see contemporary version, and this is also pictorial, even though that it has elements of the expressionism. Expressionism is a 20th century art movement where artists were presenting their personal point of view and working with the bold colors, high contrast, black, and slightly skewed perspective. So actually, when the movie first time was created, the idea was that the movies will have this type of design at the bottom, like expressionistic, expressioning what, you know, an expression of the inner world of the play. But I want to say that this is very important, that stenographer is not just not decorating background, but it's really creating a space that's relevant to the text and to the characters. And so, like what you did with the white model, like reflecting on the characters, not just being, you know, drawn to the idea, oh, let me like paint the room to looks like a room. Do you guys see the difference? So you can have pictorial even in the 20th century. It's not limited to early periods. So you can see some more examples of the pictorial set design, which is mostly, you know, painted flat to look like real, but it's not at all in any way real, neither as a material nor as a, like, you know, trees or whatever, not even close to naturalism. So as a result of the pictorial idea of the pictorial way of designing, and you can see one on the left is of the screen, it's like a cards that are put together. That's the David Hockney's design. And then on the right, you see the example of the selective realism. So the idea of the real, which is not real, which are those painted flats that create an illusion, right? Turned into 20th century in this three-dimensional spaces that have parts of reality done as if it is in real life. So you see the doors are looking very much real, you know, the boards, things like that. So selective realism really means you select a portion of real elements that you're going to depict in the set design. Does that make sense so far, guys? Are you having questions? So there's another example, like, you know, brick walls. I mean, look at this. This is not painted brick walls, but these are not real brick walls either. Those are vacuumed, produced bricks that have three-dimensionality, and they're painted and have that effect so that it has a mass. In pictorial world, the bricks would be just painted flat on the wall. Does that make sense? In a selective realism, you select portions to represent, to look as real life. So they have dimensionality, they're not flat. So I really like this quote by Jaroslav Malina, who's both designer and artist. So at the bottom, you have a very traditional approach of pictorial design with the flats in the perspective. And on the top, you have a design that's more abstract, which is up to date, like from a few years ago. And the quote is, theater is very special reality and cannot be real in a sense of everyday reality. So this approach is like refuting the idea even of the selective realism as a goal to depict the world of the play. Because the idea of the 20th century theater was related to the fact that it's not the entertainment only, but it has some points where the audience will be involved in reflection. There will be some sort of message and teaching component, and it could have like and it can go into extension of the dreams. Like this is what the surrealism is all about. So there's also like a difference in the way of thinking, like in the art world, where you have like a figurative representational way of presenting things, which is like those pictorial paintings that are two-dimensional and they seemingly present the real world. at least like in our minds, because we like to believe it. But if you look at the non-representational origin, which is a little bit more abstract and up to date to today's theater, you can see the historic development or history behind. So starting with Adolf Appia, creating a sculptural set design, then the Bauhaus, that works with the transformation of the space, with the bodies. It's very similar what Levine was doing, which changes the silhouette of the figure. I'll talk a little bit more about it. Then constructivism, which comes with the idea that everything is just constructed like a machine. It was interesting to me to discover that women in Russia were equal to men, like after the revolution, and there were many female set designers at that time. And then Bertolt Brecht, who changed the whole approach to the theater, which I'll talk in a second about it. And finally, Joseph Svoboda, that taught about psychoplastic space or the action space from 1960s on. And that will kind of be the beginning of the idea of the action design. So Adolf Appia, you can see he was working with the three-dimensional spaces and with the lights as well. So he built a theater that has actually curtains on all four sides of the wall, and he had the lights inside of it so he can change the color and stuff. And look at how, like 1864 till 1928, his work was really ahead of time. Wagner recognized his work and wanted to, and used in his series, like the designs of Adolf Appia and his ideas. But see how early the sculptural design came aboard. Sorry. So the next one, so like when you think about Adolf Appia, he's the designer, but then and visionary, but then Edward Gordon Craig is the director. And he was famous for building these designs that have like a really important, it was vertical component, like elevation. And what you see here is design for Hamlet. Those are his drawings. So he was the model that he made. This was produced and actually it's kind of tragic and funny in some ways. Nobody was hurt. But on the opening night, the set collapsed because it was so tall and structurally was not sound. But he really made the change in the visualization and creating a three-dimensional space and objects and abstraction out of it. So the next one is Brecht, and his long-term designer, Caspar here. This is a 3-penny opera. It's like a groundbreaking idea, and it's hard for you guys to really see this, but I'll try to explain better. He was the first director who came up with the idea that in so-called invisible wall, the fourth wall, as you were designing your bed sets, you know, we all had like just the 3 walls, and then we have in front proscenium opening, which is like a window or an invisible wall that divides the audience and performers. Well, Brecht came with the idea that that wall does not exist. And so he would bring out the actors into the proscenium space, into apron space. He would bring them down in between the audience. He would have actors talking to the audience as well, occasionally stepping out of the character and reflecting on what the character would think as an actor. And so just breaking the illusion. The whole goal was to break this suspension of disbelief and illusion. So we would see the light sources, we would see that these are flats. There was no intention to have it as an illusion. Sometimes we would see the back of the flat, what is the construction. We would see the empty walls of the theater. So it's like really a one path into design that makes like a huge change in the perspective of what the theater is about. Brecht lived in Germany, left at the verge of the Second World War and moved to Santa Monica. He lived here and continue not to produce ideas more than the work. But you guys see this, right? Isn't it interesting? Somewhat. Okay. And then we come to the postmodernism, and postmodernism is really a period, well, they say we live in Popomo, which is right now is after postmodernism. But the distinction is like the postmodernism is always sculptural. It has elements from different time periods combined versus the unity of style that you see in the pictorial example on the top. Okay, so David Hockney would use pictorial ideas, but presented in a way as a reflection of a graphic prints and things like that. So there's like always a symbolic language behind it in postmodernism. The symbolism is obviously you look for a symbol that is relevant to the text or production, and you know, like the sky or the frames, and what does that mean in the context of production, you know, or the text. So use one image as a symbol for the whole production that dominates. Expressionism, you can see different iterations of expressionism and how this perspectives was skewed and the bold colors. That's very rarely used today, except in some musicals or occasionally. That's a pictorial approach though. Constructivism that started in Russia with the idea that we are all, the body is machine, that we are all like a machine. And they were building really huge sets with the metal. So there's an example of Tatlin, I don't know, like some tower that never happened. But then you can see the set designs that were done and very popular in America to this day. So Joseph Svoboda came with the term scenographer, and he started using elaborate the lights and projections, and you can see some examples about it. He believes that the designer is, scenographer is 60% designer and 40% director. And director should be 60% director and 40% designer so that they can actually share the same language, which is really important in collaboration. Action design actually came from him, the idea of having design that contributes to the understanding of the production as a element that can move, change, alter, and it starts from here. It starts from finding a visual sign or symbol that reflects a production, like what I show you in symbolism. But that can have like a multi-purpose or multi-use. So searching for the iconography, searching for the symbol, what is your gut feeling about the play? It's very important in the contemporary design. And we'll practice that in our model or our final project. The transformation of spaces are another factor, which is to say that, you know, if it is interior, it's smaller, if it is exterior, it's bigger. If you look at the top left corner, that's Romeo and Juliet by Joseph Svoboda, where all the set design pieces were moving and they were on the wagon or tracks, and they're creating different environments. And sometimes they were reflecting the action. So, you know, as you're coming closer to somebody, almost like a camera work. The Bauhaus came with the radical concept of altering the space with the objects and the silhouette of the body. So you can see their idea of the space is empty space that is negative divide by few elements and creating something that's very unique. The holistic approach is basically what our course book is talking about. And this is really focusing on all these styles of theatricality or theatricalitism that I just talked about. American design, These are two most famous, like a cornerstone of design, like Boris Aronson and Joe Meltzner. Joe Meltzner, has influence of the constructivism, and Boris Aronson started using this like really functional lights in his design, which was really a breakthrough at the time. Ming-Chi Lee is one of the most famous teachers and designers at Yale. He was chair of the program for decades. And you can see the variations from the selective realism here to just like a sculptural version, to here the use of the painted or actually pictorial work. And then this one is not very clear, but he loved to use this constructivism idea of the scaffolding and such. There are non-traditional spaces like site-specific in the 20th century, where you can see, you can use specific objects. And we did talk a bit about this in a presentation of the site-specific spaces. So the idea of the symbol, the idea of what is the icon that represents production is important in these kind of found spaces or the installation. So this is a takeaway from this lecture. And I'm going to stop here. I just want to see, guys, was this kind of sufficient information? How do you feel about it? Did you learn something new? Okay. I will record this so you can follow, I mean, for the forum, some of these lecture parts that might be important to grasp, because not everything is written on the slides. And the forum question will be probably the best served if you do it as soon as possible after this presentation, as this is fresh in your memory. But the second portion, the assignment for the Sunday evening is related to reading the play. We're starting the final, okay? So you have the handouts in the homework, link where to find the text, and then what is needed to be presented. It's nothing new that was not done already in the Hamlet production. So it's a little bit of the research, a breakdown, and then answering the questions that are related to the analysis of the text. So I have to say, this is, I found out that I have a surgery on the 24th of November. So hopefully everything is going to be okay, but still I would really, okay. I got an email from Elisa, I'll take a look at that. So I will be, I hope that within 4 weeks we can do the full, before my surgery, the whole assignment, just in case that something goes wrong. But I mean, we'll still have the last day of classes, which is the 30th, and then the week of finals on the 2nd. So you can still, the whole goal is to actually get the final presentation of the set design the way that you guys tried out different portions of that, okay? So is this clear? Lisa, thank you for pointing out. I'll take a look what's happening. I had issues with my internet. It was breaking down because my husband is just this computer like genius, and he works for ESRI with GIS, and he used lots of bandwidth. So we fight over the time for my class. So something maybe did not go through, but I'll check it, okay? So guys, do you have questions? I mean, the class is over, no? Okay, I really hope we'll get into more individual context from this point onwards when we start the discussion on the production and your own designs, okay? Because the goal is like what we were tapping into with this bedroom to really find your own place and your own voice in expressing something that is a play and production, but so that you have fun about it. Okay? Okay, are we good? Any questions? Okay, no questions. Are we done? Are you guys feeling okay? Okay, just let me know if you're dealing with anything. It's just like such a horrendous time that we live in. So I want to be able to help you enjoy your life instead of being like torturing you. So, okay? So let me know how's everything going and stay in touch with me, okay? Ta-da, we're done. Thank you. Bye, bye.
I did have one question.
Yes.
I just wanted to know, where would you like me to put the presentation I just did in my digital journal? Like, do you care where it ends up?
Does not matter. You can put it at the end. You can put it now. I mean, as long as you have it, it does not matter.
Sounds good.
I mean, why don't you put it right now so you add it and you're done with that? And okay, you got A-. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, you too. Bye.